One of my all-time favorite ways to practice my video editing skills is to film something boring and then try to figure out how to make it look not boring. I like to approach it like it's a bit of a challenge. How do you take something that looks ordinary and make it visually interesting? What could you possibly add or tweak to make it look different? But the key here is that you don't want to hold back. Practice on something that you're not going to be sending to a client, because this is your opportunity to get a little bit crazy, think outside the box, and don't worry about messing up the shot. Now, I filmed a short clip of Sarah and Cheese Bear, that's Cheese Bear, on my iPhone 13 mini, and I used the cinematic video mode on the built-in camera app at 24 frames per second. And as you could probably tell, there's not a ton going on here. There's no fancy camera moves, nothing crazy or unexpected. You might be wondering, why is the computer screen green? And in all honesty, I just didn't really know what to put on the screen at the time, so I just thought we'd worry about it later. The first thing I'm noticing about the shot is that it's a little bit shakier than I'd like, so I'll quickly add some stabilization to smooth things out, and I think this looks a bit better. And now looking at this shot, I might play it a bunch of times or stare at it for a few minutes and ask myself, what, if anything, stands out about this shot? Even the slightest bit. Is there anything that catches my attention? Now, for whatever reason, the one thing I couldn't get my mind off of watching this back was the yellow leaves on the trees outside. So what does this mean, and how does this help us for our video? Well, something I like to do is identify unique characteristics of any video footage and then really lean into that, exaggerate that theme. And you know what would really make this video look even more like fall are some leaves actually falling and fluttering in the background outside the window. Now, fortunately for us, our sponsor Storyblocks has a ton of these falling leaves shots to choose from. I actually like this one here where the leaves are a bit smaller, so I'll go ahead and download that. And now the task at hand is, how do we take the stock footage of the leaves falling and get that outside the window looking somewhat realistic? First thing I'm gonna do is duplicate our original shot and move it over here. I'm gonna go into our effects panel and grab the Luma Keyer effect and then drag that onto our clip. Now, in very simple terms, what a Luma Keyer does is it can remove certain parts of a shot based on their luminance. So for example, you can choose to remove or key out the darkest parts of a shot in the shadows, or you can slide it from the other direction to key out the brightest parts of the shot, aka the highlights. Now, in our case, we are definitely going to want to key out the highlights because all of the brightest information in the shot is coming through that window. So I'm going to adjust the slider here very carefully, slowly removing the highlights, and we can make some adjustments until we get something that looks decent. We definitely don't want to overdo it, and I think for our purposes today, this will work just fine. I'm going to right click on our clip here and make it a new compound clip, titling it Window Key. Next, we can grab our stock footage here of our leaves falling and drag it underneath our window key, and you can see now it only shows up through that keyed portion of the shot. I'll use the transforms to adjust the size here just to make the leaves a bit smaller, but making sure it still fills up that whole window area. And from here, we will want to make sure that our top clip is selected, and we can change the blend mode to Silhouette Alpha. I'll quickly highlight both clips and make a new compound clip. This time I'm going to call it Leaves. And then I can drag this new compound clip over top of our original clip. Now, blend modes are kind of complicated and difficult to explain, and it's probably a topic for a whole other video, but what you need to know for this example is that when we added the Silhouette Alpha to our clip, this effectively isolated our leaves to only show up in the area we want it to. This is between the windows and not throughout the rest of the frame where it would be interfering with other parts of the room and the subject itself. Now, it's not always going to be totally perfect, so if you want, you can go in with a draw mask tool and very roughly just draw a mask around the window area so that you don't have leaves showing up on the walls. But once you're happy with the placement and how this is looking, you can go in and add some blur, maybe reduce the opacity a little bit. Whatever you feel helps to blend the shots together and make it appear as though the leaves are actually outside the window and not in the room. And this is actually looking pretty cool. I think the next thing we can address is that computer screen. We can simply add the keyer effect to punch out that green screen. And because there's no actual green spill in this shot, we can turn the spill level down all the way. And now, of course, we just need something to put on that screen. Now, seeing as Sarah is petting Cheese Bear, maybe she's watching a video about dog training. So Storyblocks actually has plenty of that as well. Now, if you don't have a Storyblocks subscription already, I highly recommend you check it out. I'll actually be adding this shot to the Storyblocks library if you'd like to take a crack at editing it for yourself. All you have to do is go to storyblocks.com storyblocks.com/DanielSchiffer. And whether it's stock footage, overlays, title templates, video transitions, and much more, they have got you covered. All of the assets on Storyblocks are high quality and royalty free, so you can use them in whatever projects you like, including YouTube content like this, or if you're making a video for a client, you can use it for that as well. So make sure you go to the link in the description below to check out Storyblocks, or go to storyblocks.com/DanielSchiffer to learn more. Now, adding our dog training video to the keyed computer screen is as easy as dragging it underneath and adjusting the size, and we'll just add a few keyframes on our position throughout the clip to make sure it follows the movement. Now, since the computer screen isn't really the primary focus of the shot, we can add some Gaussian blur, and then I'll go ahead and highlight everything, making it a new compound clip, and I'm going to rename this base clip. And that is all of the difficult stuff pretty much out of the way. From here on out, it's gonna be a lot easier. I definitely wanna give this more of a stylized look. So I'm gonna add a color grade using my basic LUT from my Vintage Look 2 LUT pack. This will make all those fall tones pop a little bit more. I'm also going to add this romantic effect to give the shot more of a dreamy look and maybe soften it up just a little bit. And I'm also gonna hop back into Storyblocks and download a couple extra pieces of stock footage like lens flares and light rays, maybe some film grain, and this will really tie everything together. We'll set the blend mode of the flare to add and reduce it to 50%. We can do the same with our light rays. And then as for our film grain, I'm gonna turn that down to 25% and set the blend mode to soft light. Now, if you ask me, we have something here that looks entirely different from what we started with. This is the original basic shot that we had in the beginning. Of course, there is nothing all that captivating about this shot. And here is our edited shot, which, as you can hopefully tell, looks a lot more stylized and interesting. It even has this sort of whimsical and magical feel to it. To me, the original shot doesn't really evoke any kind of feeling or theme, but now we have something that looks dreamy and really sells that cozy autumn vibe. And honestly, not bad for an iPhone shot either. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video or found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at Daniel.Schiffer. And as always, I will see you in the next video.